Buddhism is an ancient tradition with answers to life's biggest questions today. Why do we suffer? How do we relate to other beings? And how do we make the world a happier and more peaceful place for everyone? Our mission at BDK America is to help people understand Buddhism better. Are you looking to start learning about Buddhism or dig deeper? BDK America offers free books and videos for peoples of all ages and levels. Our most popular book, The Teaching of Buddha, is available to read in English and 46 other languages in physical, PDF, and audiobook formats. Visit our website for our latest publications and order your own free copy today.
Hello, thanks for watching our show. Starting today, we will explore the teaching of the 4 marks of existence. These 4 marks make up an important segment of the 4 Noble Truths, the overall framework for understanding the core Buddhist teachings, which we discussed in our last series of shows. How then do the 4 marks of existence relate to the 4 Noble Truths? Well, the 4 marks of existence constitute a dimension of the 4th Noble Truth, or the Eightfold Noble Path. Now, among the 8 aspects of the Eightfold Noble Path, the 4 marks fall under the right view. The aim of Buddhist teaching is to help seekers awaken to truth, and to do so, one needs to view our experiences in the right or correct way, thus, right view. And the 4 marks of existence show us the specific ways of how to do so. What are the 4 marks of existence? I will first tell you how they are traditionally stated, and then use a more common, everyday expression to make them easier to understand. The first is all conditioned phenomena is suffering, or simply, life is a bumpy road. Second is all conditioned phenomena lacks substantial entity. In other words, life is interdependent. The third is all conditioned phenomena is impermanent. Put another way, life is impermanent. Fourth is nirvana is peaceful and tranquil, or simply, life can be great. Today, let's concentrate on the first mark. Let me begin by asking, how do you feel about life? Is your life filled with happiness or with suffering? Or do you feel life is a combination of the two? I bet most of you would say that life has its share of both happiness and suffering. That is why I will express this as life is a bumpy road. It really is, isn't it? At times, everything goes your way and you feel life is really great. Yet, other times, things just don't seem to go your way. We all have our highs and our lows. However, our human nature makes us accentuate the highs or the smooth part of the road while ignoring the lows or the bumps along the road. Also, our cultural and economic environment reinforces this tendency. The Buddhist message is to balance this tendency and to address the bumps. For only by doing so can we attain real spiritual peace and freedom. That's why Buddhism places the issue of suffering on the front burner, so to speak. Some people feel that word suffering is an improper translation of the original expression, which is dukkha in Sanskrit. But dukkha has too many multiple shades of meaning to be translated into just one English word. Some people prefer, for example, pain, unhappiness, or unsatisfactoriness. In any case, no one word or phrase can do justice to the word dukkha. But I shall use suffering as I believe it's still the best translation. Let's take another look at how to explain the first mark of existence by referring to a best-selling book. I'm sure many of you have read or heard about a picture book, The Fall of Freddie the Leaf, a story of life for all ages by Leo Buscaglia. It's about a leaf named Freddie who experiences the ups and downs of life. In the spring, he is born on a branch of a tree in a park. And as summer comes, he finds himself working together with his fellow leaves to create a shade for people who come to enjoy the park. Freddie is really happy with his life, surrounded by good friends and engaged in the meaningful work of bringing joy to others. Then suddenly, fall brings the cold and the frost, and Freddie learns that he must soon leave the tree against his will. Freddie fights and resists at first, but gradually comes to accept his predicament, for he learns that though all things must change and die, they are part of a greater life which lasts forever. So having found inner peace, Freddie departs from the tree gracefully to join the ongoing process of life. I believe that enormous popularity of this book was due to the very simple and approachable way of addressing the fears and anxiety surrounding death, aging, and change. In some ways, this book broke a taboo by talking openly about a subject people and society often feel uncomfortable addressing. Similar, in my view, to what Buddhism has been doing for the past 2,500 years. Speaking of uncomfortable topics, the Buddha spelled out what he meant by the first mark of existence. That is, all conditioned phenomena are suffering, or life is a bumpy road. These phenomena include 1. Birth, 2. Aging, 3. Illness, 4. Death, 5. Being united with what one does not like, separation from what one likes, and 7. Not getting what one wants. I will talk about the first example, birth, in a moment. And we have previously looked at aging, illness, and death. With regard to death, Freddie expressed his fears to his friend Daniel, saying, "I'm afraid to die. I don't know what's down there." I'm sure many of us can identify with Freddie on this point. As for suffering stemming from being united with what one does not like, this refers, for example, to associating with difficult people. Don't we all have the experience of having to work with a demanding boss or a coworker who is hard to get along with? For Freddie, he was united with a situation where all the leaves had to go. On the other hand, separation from what one likes refers, for example, to having to move away from a great neighborhood or school due to a parent's new job. For Freddie, he was perfectly happy being in the tree with all his leaf friends, working together to bring joy and comfort to the old and the young people who came to enjoy the park. But with the arrival of fall, Freddie would be torn away from his friends, his work, and his home. As for suffering stemming from not getting what one wants, this is a more generic category that refers to a case where your efforts don't seem to pay off. For instance, can you recall liking someone very much? So you did everything possible to get that person to like you, but he or she just didn't pay any attention. As for Freddie, he wanted to remain on the tree so much and fought as hard as he could, but in the end, he couldn't get to what he wanted. Now, let's return to birth to ask why the Buddha included this as an example of suffering. When the birth of a baby is a reason for celebration. This is a tough question to answer in such a limited time and when there is the possibility of misunderstanding. In short, according to the general traditional Indian religious view, unless spiritual awakening is attained, one is born again and again in a cycle of birth and death, samsara, commonly known as transmigration or reincarnation. The Buddhists, too, subscribed to this general view. So, to be born into human life, even though it is considered rare and precious, meant that one is still wandering in a cycle of transmigration, which is proof that one has failed to achieve awakening, the supreme goal of Buddhists. For that reason, birth was included as an example of suffering. To use an analogy, riding on a Ferris wheel is fun, but it would be horrifying if you continue to go in circles for 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, and endlessly. So, to be born into this never-ending cycle is perceived as a form of suffering. All this talk of suffering is not the end of the story, for acknowledging that life is a bumpy road, as the first mark of existence teaches, is a first step toward a solution, just as we saw in the Buddha as well as Freddie the Leaf. When we do, we awaken to the fact that the difficulties that can lead to suffering are unavoidable, and we cannot run from them, as aptly expressed in today's scriptural passage. Ordinary people in the world sooner or later run into difficulties, and consequently, most people suffer. However, those who have heard the Buddha's teaching do not suffer because they understand that these difficulties are unavoidable. Of course, one's suffering doesn't disappear just by hearing the teachings, but it does propel us on a path where the level of our suffering decreases. So long for now, but please tune in next week when a monk will show us how to meditate as a way of dealing with our difficulties and suffering.
We at Bukkyo Dendo Kyokai pursue peace and happiness for people around the world. We have published the Buddhist teachings into 41 languages and donated our publication to hotels and other facilities in 55 countries. We would like to share the Buddhist teachings with people around the world. That's our mission. Visit our website for more information